The experiment at the facility had gone horribly wrong. Humanity was never supposed to mess with things they said was on the other side. What was meant to be a device used for traveling into other dimensions or planes of existence became the greatest weapon we created against ourselves. I put the blame on the lab coats, as I like to call the workers responsible for its design. Before I begin, I want to add a little something. My name is John Doe. Since I won't be using my actual name, I come from a small town I assume you're not aware of. I was just a mere logistics and janitorial worker, a top-secret scientific facility dedicated to discovering life outside of our universe. However, this wasn't just it. The programs they had focused on the possibility that there does exist life on the other side, or the afterlife to be more specific. Scientists have developed a technology capable of spotting things that we would write off fast, fictional mumbo-jumbo, things like ghosts, demons, angels, werewolves, wendigos, you name me. I don't want to go into too much details on what they found, so I'll give you some basics. Some form of technology they create. DWAS, a camera with lens designed for spotting things that aren't visible to the naked eye. All the while they developed a radio tower, or big dishes, they like to call it, that was capable of transmitting and receiving signals at nearly infinite speeds. I don't know how they did this, and it sounded too ridiculous, but that was what I heard from some lab coats when I was simply cleaning the floors. If anything, I didn't mind listening in on their findings and accomplishments, but I wish they'd learned to clean up after themselves to make my job a little easier. I assume they do that on purpose, just how with me sometimes, but it still beats my last workplace where coworkers constantly created drama or gossip about others. Especially men, not to mention the pay was stable. I can't leave anyways since my job is a contract and I'm required to work there for 2 years until I'm let go and my contract is complete. But I was happy of the fact that I was receiving hourly pay, as well as $10,000 upon completion of contract. So yeah, right now I'm currently not working there anymore. The facility had shut down over a month ago. All the staff, including and myself, were let following the incident. I wouldn't go back there, and we were forced to leave the town. Yes, the entire town was heavily affected by this. God rest the souls of those who perished during the incident or didn't make it out of the rest. Where do I start? During a particular day where I was performing logistics work, when the delivery trucks for supplies came in as usual, I would check everything that comes in and see if there are any discrepancies or damages to the delivered items. Thankfully, they were all okay, but as I was about to start putting them away, along with a few other colleagues, John, to someone Zed calling my name, it turned to see who it was, and I was surprised. I didn't think a high-ranked military official would get involved in the program. Maybe the military took an interest in battling forces from other dimensions, but that would be a dumbity. Perhaps there was more to it than that. Standing next to the official was a man I knew by his alias Ace. Why, he's considered the ace of cards when it comes to doing the work here. He was a brilliant mind to have around, one that would put Einstein to shame. Ace then gave a formal introduction. I won't mention the general's real names, so I'll refer to him as Blackjack John Doe. This is General Blackjack. He's going to be joining you in our latest experiment. He, as well as other personnel, will assist you in monitoring for any activity regarding said experiment. Ace said, really, what experiment is that? I asked. We call it Project Stargate. That was an interesting name for the device. The technology of the device was our greatest and most prized human accomplishment, and what also led to our greatest downfall in scientific achievement. Is this because it was through this device that a horrifying situation occurred? Nevertheless, I asked to see why he wanted to introduce me. That's when I got my answer. You will be joining us. John, we could use your support for the logistics part of it. He said that didn't make much sense at first until he gave me a list of the specificities and the amounts the experiment needs. Some of them involved strange codes as I could describe them, but these things didn't have names of the items. I'm used to seeing names and simple numbers stored, but when I met with complex codes or stuff like this, I'd be confused. What are these codes or symbols or whatever these are? I asked. Ace, simple. Just put them in where you would normally put information you use to order products to our facility, and the items associated with them will appear on the order screen automatically ready to be ordered by you. That's all you need to know, no more questions. She said, very well. Is Ed confused and irritated of the fact I wasn't being led in what they're planning when I got at the computer and popped up the website we used to order the items. I did as I was told. When I did, I was hit with a wave of confusion. Upon doing this, the item that came showed a series of more complex codes, and to the right of it says encrypted. I asked, you myth that whatever these were, the folks here don't want anyone to know what they specifically are. Note. Even me, I don't blame them. I'm hard to trust myself, given that I'm sharing this despite having signed a non-disclosure agreement. If anything, even I had no clue where the facility was, since I never knew the town close by it. I was from a different state. After all that aside, I simply ordered the items and gave the confirmation to Ace. He thanked me for my work. What caught my attention was that the items arrived on the next day. Normally, I expected items to be arriving within 3 to 5 days, so I'm guessing wherever I ordered the unknown items from must be from a place that has top-notch delivery speed. However, that wasn't the strangest part. Not that high-speed delivery was strange, but I didn't expect the items to arrive in just 14 hours. When I checked the boxes, they all shared the same codes. Is it want the computer? When I opened the boxes to see and check for items, I was astonished. There were 4 glass items resembling plasma balls you could find in certain stores, and they were held in cylindrical containers. What made it more intriguing was seeing the containers had a lid that can be opened. When I opened one, the ball began to charge. Asbestos, I could describe as what looked like lightning, started appearing in the ball as it touched it. I was shocked at first, no pun intended. However, I wasn't electrocuted. It just felt weird. I didn't know how long I was caught up with the sensation. It's amazing, isn't it? I heard Ace say, causing Meta jump in fright, and turned toward Shim. He gave a laugh at my reaction, and I looked down in shame for that interesting piece of technology. When it charges like this, it's because it reacts to the bioelectricity you give off, as well as anything capable of producing electricity. Within it, quite fascinating and strange. She said, where did it come from? I asked. Let's just say a top-secret government facility in another country. They've been developing these things. Humanity is continuing their greatest achievements, even in secret, he told me. I looked at the other boxes that came in. Another one had guns that looked like a mix between an AK-47 and an M4. Upon closer inspection, there appeared to be some kind of glowing light on the top of the frame. The guns seemed strange too. I picked one up, and I was amazed at how light they were. That's way. And Asa took out a gun and pointed it at the direction of an empty glass cup. Be careful where you point that. one shot from it, and if it's a person's body, will be all over the place. He said before firing it at the glass cup, causing it, along with the table, to explode into pieces. But what came out of the gun was not a bullet, but a beam of light that looked like something out of Star Wars. Damn, that's dangerous. Why doesn't the military have this tech? I asked. The guns that you see here are durable and well built. They can withstand tremendous amounts of damage to it if the my Gothish hands in this weapon. Who knows what trouble they could cause for us? Said that was at least understandable. Although I got curious on the general himself. What about Blackjack and his fellow personnel? I asked. There's Ariazan. He was picked along with several others. They're more than capable of dealing with things the average human mind wouldn't be able to understand or comprehend, not to mention they are highly trained, not only in mental capacity but physical capacity too, of course. They'll be provided suits for the job since we're not going to see them. Sent in there with only bare skin and uniform, she explained. But what do you mean by understanding or comprehending? I asked. Put this way, imagine a 9-foot tall entity with 4 arms and 4 legs, humanoid in appearance, with the faces similar to the horror figure Laughing Jack, but without hair. Would you handle meeting that? He asked. It took this as a silly question. No, I would kill the damn thing or run away. I yelled. Of course you would, even if I were to tell you that those creatures do exist. But aren't those still a tuss? Regardless of their so-called scary looks, you would still see them as a threaty as well. No, because now no, they're friendly. I said. Yes, because you just found out. The said still this didn't properly answer my question until he explained more. Sometimes, in certain cases, you'll come across hideous-looking entities that actually turn out to be friendly to us, while beautiful-looking entities that actually turn out to be hostile to us. Of course, it's not always the case, but don't be quick to judge as I'm something you don't understand. Now you see what I'm saying? Hesked me. Nodded, still a little confused but slowly understanding the point it was trying to make, but confusing none-the-less. As for their remaining boxes, one had a larger glass ball in it, so Duen container, while the others had the suits the military personnel were going to wear. The gear looked pretty high-tech and flexible, not to mention lightweight, and felt thar to siren. The were also oxygen marked sand tanks, with some kind of technology that allows oxygen to be recycled and reused from CO2 emissions, so that the personnel never run out of oxygen to breathe. As for how it works, I have no idea, and I still don't invent to this day, since the items we need to begin the experimentish here. Let's get going. He said, signaling Meta come and join them, which made me confused. Why? I asked. Like Azed, you'll be joining us. Grab any of those guns you'll need. Itha said, but I'm not fit for wielding a weapon. I'm not even a soldier. Azed, trying to make sense of this. You are. Now John, besides, you'll be fascinated with this experiment. Come on, he explained. Still, it didn't seem like the kind of thing it should be involved in, since I said I'm merely janitor and logistics. I didn't expect to be a soldier for a days. So this was news, till even I was interested to see what's going to happen, one that I regret dearly after what when I followed Ace Hildmeen to a room that I've been in before. However, last I remember there wasn't a massive circular-shaped object inside it. I'm guessing they just brought it, and the device itself looked like some kind of portal device you would see in the Stargate series. Now I'm assuming this is why they call it Project Stargate. It somewhat resembles that machine too. What make this device unique is this device had 5 empty slots, 2 small ones on each side and a big one at the top. It's clear these slots are where those glass balls are going on. This is it, John. This is Project Stargate. It's go. Into ready soon. In an hour, when that does, we will be prepared to witness humanity's greatest invention come to life. We'll be able to learn more and perhaps communicate with beings from different dimensions, provided they're not those style. Asa told me. I admit I was surprised to see the device myself. It was big, probably about 20 feet in length and width. You and the rest of your colleagues bring the supplies here. We'll get the military suited up and the device ready, Ace explained. So I went back to the supply room to get the stuff. I admit I was feeling nervous about this, mostly because of my fear of the unknown. We don't know what we would meet with or encounter on the other side of the portal, if it truly is meant to open portals to dimensions or other planes of existence. I wouldn't like the idea of inviting extraterrestrial or demonic spirits in our world. Nevertheless, I continued to participate as I let my curiosity get the better of me. After an hour had passed and the supplies were brought and everything was in its place, the orbs were set in the slots, the military suited up, and everyone along with the military, including myself, were all equipped with weapons. The reason for this is because in case the military doesn't make it back from whatever world they're sent to cross over to, and the inhabitants cross into the portal in Area 3 TUS. We're specifically told to protect this facility. Soldier or not, so even the lab coats were armed dunce. Everyone was prepared. I heard none of the scientists giving specific details on the function of the device. Everything is currently going well, getting frequency readings normal function so far. Ace, he said. That's when in noticed Ace giving a big smile at this, as she was expecting the device to function well. No issues reported. Good. Activate the dev. Isa said. That's when I watched the scientist move his hands as if he was pressing buttons, and then he grabbed onto what like a small lever for pulling it down on's heated. It turned to look at the portal. It gave off a strange noise, which sounded like a mix between whistling and electronic whirring. Then I noticed the glass orbs light up, meaning they're in contact with the electricity flowing throughout or around the device. I couldn't tell. Then the big orb at the center lit up, and after a few moments of waiting, I noticed a scene manifest in the center of the D. Of us, the military personnel, lined up in front of the device preparing to cross over into it. When I looked at the scenery in front, I was amazed. The place seemed quite beautiful. I noticed what I assumed to be birds in the distance flying around in that beautiful purple sky. There even appeared to be a huge mountain in the distance. One of the birds probably saw the portal because it started flying towards us, but when it got close enough, I realized they weren't birds, they were dragons. This dragon looked a lot like the one in the movie Rain of Fire. Then it gave every loud skr. Turn it off, turn it off. ACL. Just one of the dragons spat fire at the personnel before the portal was shut off. The dragon's fire came in contact with the suits of the personnel. Apparently those suits could withstand the heat of that fire, and thankfully none was injured. However, everyone cheered on about this moment. While all the cheering, that dragon could have burnt to alive and flew towards us. He said loudly. That's a good sign too, John. That means our portal was a success. We just made contact. Asa said in a fit of joy and excitement. Of course, the fact that the dragon's fire touched the suits means that the portal wasn't showing just a simple scene, but it was also a gateway into another world. It was at least thankful the dragon didn't cross through the portal, else it would be here with use and wreaking havoc in the facility, and we'd probably all be dead. Unfortunately, Ace's ambition got the best of him. A shask to turn the portal back on when it was back on the scan for other worlds or dimensions. To access this one seems to operate in a different vibratory frequency. The scientist claimed. Apparently this was a dimension beyond that of our physical universe. Looking at it, the realm looked like it was made of pure, energetic light. Then I noticed the inhabitants. They resembled humanoid beings with etheric bodies. Thankfully, none of the entities gave a threatening gesture since they looked into our direction. Should we go through General Blackjack? Ask. This world is of hideous in nature. There's a pretty good chance you'll leave your bodies, therefore die, if you all cross into it, so if it's best you stay put. Asa told them. I'm not surprised with Ace's expertise, one their energies, given that he's worked in this facility dedicated to finding such things, and the existence is still there. All looked beautiful and interesting. It seemed to be a realm surrounded in an empty void, yet it was inhabited by beings made of pure light. Proceed to scan for more worlds. Asa said. I was bummed out when we lost sight of that plane. I can only wish to join those inhabitants after ID. Event thought that sounds ridiculous. Once the next scan finished, we noticed a new world that was strange. This world looked like ours, but it was black and white, in color. It was like staring at an old vintage movie back in the 1930s. Strangest of all was seeing the inhabitants in the distance ere we able to cross into it. General Blackjack asked, unlike the previous one, scans show this one is stable. Sois, the scientist, claimed once he got the approval, and the military walked through the portal and began walking on that world. That's when I saw the inhabitants looking directly at them. I jumped slightly in shock when I noticed one of those inhabitants appear quickly in front of the portal from the side. It reached its arm out in an attempt to touch the portal, only that its hand went through. From what I observed, even at a distance this thing resembled Slenderman. Given its features, the only exception was the height, that being 4 to 5 as I could describe it. Also had fingers with long black nails. It seemed completely naked, but at least the thing didn't have any genitalia. After observing us through the portal, it turned towards the personnel who were visibly watching it and then walked towards them. I assumed that this thing was going to attack the general and everyone in their world, but that didn't happen. Instead, it just stared at them for a few moments before it turned away and took off running as if it had seen the boogeyman. The other figures in the distance did the same thing, choosing not to interact with the personnel general. Blackjack, can you still hear us? AC asked through the speaker. Yeah, we can't, thank goodness. Luckily there was still sound to be heard from you, else I wouldn't be talking to you, right? Now, General Blackjack claimed the guys who made those suits are genius, as the communication system in your suit can still keep in connection with us despite being in the new world. Now come back in, Asa said with a smile. The general and all the personnel came back. Their suits were checked for any substances from that world, but there was nothing. Let's do a final look into another world before we cease our experiment. Asa claimed if there was one more thing I could give credit to Ace, for he was spotting when he said this was our final look. This is because it was at this moment that things turned grim. When the scientist began a scan and found a new world, we were met with a hazy, smoky scene. For some reason, we couldn't see anything, but that wasn't the worrying part. What followed next was a series of loud screeching sounds followed by guttural roars and howling noises that I've never heard in all my years. I grew up in a small town where I would hear wolves howling at certain times of the night. This howling sound was new, let alone extremely awful. All these sounds from it made my skin crawl with pure terror. I don't like that noise. I'll find another world, the scientist anxiously stated before beginning a new scan. I was thankful that the noises were gone. We found another world, which probably wouldn't be any better if the devices stayed on it. There appeared to be skyscrapers, and the entire city seemed as though we were staring into the future, or perhaps an alien civilization. However, this lasted for only several moments, because after that, this is where the horror began. The world disappeared, and after hearing what the scientist said next, a cold grip of terror got me. The device is something must be controlling it. It's taking us back to the previous world we just left. Everyone in the facility, even I myself, became anxious and horrified. I assumed that whatever was in that world must have noticed the portal we made to access its world and decided to force us back to it. When we were brought back, those horrifying sounds returned to add to the horror. A figure walked through the portal. This thing was horrifying. It looked like an unholy mix between a werewolf and a wendigo. Had antlers on the top of its head with long black tusks protruding from its mouth, while the body looked fleshy and furry and its eyes bloodshot with a yellow iris and crimson pupils. The knit gave off a horrible guttural howl. Other hideous creatures, different in sizes and appearances, came through the portal. The hideous wolf-looking entity slashed at one of the soldiers, causing his suit to be ripped apart with the ease open fire. General Blackjack screamed, well shot at the creatures. They were taking damages from the shots, but this didn't seem to drive them back nor cause their bodies to explode. These things were resilient. They got angry and started lunging around, attacking anyone else nearby. John, out of here. We'll hold them off. The rest of you go. Blackjack told me, nodded and ran as fast as I could. I heard loud footsteps coming toward me with the sound of its guttural roar telling me that one of the creatures is chasing me down. The thing stopped when I heard its screech in pain. It turned to look, and I could see Ace leaning with his gun pointed at the pursuing creature's direction. There's a lever at the opening to the facility. Pull it down before you leave. This will keep these things from get in. Gano, Asa told me before the creature decided to target him for his transgression, leaving me alone. This gave me the opportunity to get away from the room. Asa shut the door tight and made sure it was locked, hoping it would buy me some time. I suspect these things would know how to break it down, since they're intelligent enough to cause the device to return to the portal back to their world. My suspicions were confirmed when one of the small entities knocked the door down and came out. Izo turned towards me and it gave chase. Luckily it wasn't fast enough, so I could run from it. The alarm kicked off. Warning, unidentified breach in Sector 2, or P. Unidentified breach in Sector 2A. When I got through the facility lobby, some of the workers started prepping to leave the facility. They saw me running, followed by the small creature that was looking at them. The workers all ran in fear. I was lucky that the creature didn't jump up to attack me, because it jumped to the wall and lunged at one of the workers. Poor guy wasn't quick enough to get away as that thing kept maiming him alive. I couldn't stay to help him, so I kept running. When I finally got to the exit, another create came bursting through the lobby. It was that hideous wolf-like entity it had its eyes locked onto. Well, luckily I was in reach of the lever, so I grabbed onto it and pulled it down. Sadly, a few other scientists that were in the lobby couldn't make it out in time. I saw the facility's large emergency door, which looked like a metal hangar door, slide from right to left. At a very fast pace, I was able to jump out with the emergency door. Missing my feet by a few inches. Myself, along with 2 logistics colleagues and 3 lab coats, were the only ones who made it out. I felt sorry for those who didn't make it. Godspeed to those who might still be alive down there. After a couple of days, we were notified by our local news of a mass outbreak of some unknown virus from that facility, and nearby residents along with myself were ordered to evacuate immediately. Now that place is nothing more than a ghost town. There's no one living there. As form, I'm currently in a city I'm not going to disclose. I don't want anyone coming to my door and talking to me about this. I'd rather just post it in some random website than hold a briefing or interview. I was also told that I was released from duty, and the organization I worked for declared my contract fulfilled and deposited the $10,000 into my bank along with my paychecks. So why am I telling you this now? Well, it's because after about a month I had received a call from one of the lab coats, specifically the one that did the scans. I didn't know how it got a hold of my phone number, but I assumed someone told him, or he got hold of my application records. I was surprised he was one of the 3 lab coats that made it out. But I didn't pay attention, probably because I was more worried with saving my skin than seeing his face. I asked him about the facility's condition, and luckily the entire place itself was designed and modified to be tougher than tungsten others. Now those things are getting out, at least. I can only hope that they don't find a way to reach the surface of our world. When I asked what happened to the device, he told me that he had no clue, but the device gave a set of numbers on the screen that was associated with that horrifying world, indicating that the world had a specific frequency. When I asked what numbers the frequency held, I got a bone-chilling answer. He told me 666.